Yo guys, tomato sauce in here. Tonight, I want to come at you with some premium melee content. Been gone for a week, had spent some time with the family, right? Had some good times. Now we're back working, not just at the job, but also grinding out content for you guys. So, which melee should you play in 10.1? We are on the eve of 10.1, and I hope I can help you make your decision as far as which melee you want to play going into this patch. Let's talk Frost Death Knight first. So, from a PvP perspective, Frost is actually looking pretty interesting. There's some crit nerfs, right, that are going to hurt it a little bit, but there was some baseline damage buffs to obliterate that I think are going to help it out and help out balance, the crit nerfs that it received. Now, the problem with Frost Death Knight is that you're kind of limited in who you pair it with for PvP, at least, right? Twos, not too much fun. Threes, however, you could go with Demo Lock, as you've seen my old videos. You could roll with Devastation Evoker, which is arguably Frost's best comp right now, and Devastation Evoker's coming into some buffs as well. You could roll with a Boomkin. Frost DK Boomy has always been a really, really solid 1-2 punch. So you've got some options there, and really, you could go Walking Dead and TSG as well, because they all fit really well with Frost DK. Actually, Ret Frost DK is really good as well. So you've got a lot of options there as a Frost DK. You bring some awesome utility in both PvP and PvE. And I think you even look solid in Mythic Plus coming up. So they have the ability to cleave 3 targets with Obliterate now. So if you really like that 2-hand Frost playstyle, you could even, rock it in PvE as well. So overall, I think Frost looks pretty solid. Definitely living in the A tier. And its brother Unholy is right behind it. Unholy looks awesome in Raid. It's just got some pretty big buffs leading into tomorrow as well. It's not a heavily crit dependent class like Frost. It's more consistent damage. So you're going to continue to just stack mastery and do your thing, right? Rot, play that super annoying Unholy play style. And now you've both got the Death Strike physical damage wall in PvP. So, you're feeling good there. The problem with Unholy and Mythic Plus is that if you don't pull around your Unholy Death Knight, the spec doesn't feel as good, right? It almost feels better just playing 2-hand Obliterate Frost and Pug Keys than it does playing 15 to 18 keys on Unholy. So I don't like it a ton in PvE, but it more than makes up for it in raid environment where Unholy is always one of the better raid specs. So I think they're both a solid lock for A tier as we move into this patch. The huge Death Strike change in PvP, and they both look solid in PvE. Havoc Demon Hunter, I think, is a specialization that goes straight to S tier. I think it's going to be much stronger in Mythic Plus than it was last season, and that's kind of hard to do because it was awesome last season in Mythic Plus. I think the tier set works really, really well with its raid build and its Mythic Plus build. Just, getting bigger eye beams out, having more eye beams. You're cracking on Havoc Demon Hunter. Now, let's talk utility. You've got a Fear. You've got an AoE stun. You've got a single target stun. You've got an Imprison. You've got a ranged interrupt, right? You've got some of the most mobility in the game. You have the ability to enable skips because of your unique kit, right? So Havoc Demon Hunter is in PvE, PvP, and you're buffing everybody's magic damage by 5%. You're in a league of your own. Your damage is incredibly strong, whether you play Momentum or not. I choose to not play Momentum in PvP, in PvE, and I do play Momentum in PvP. With the typical dot rot heavy burst damage momentum build, right? Around your 40-second essence breaks, lining them up with eye beams and coming in with some fat blade dances, ending it up with a fell rush, right? An immo or a buffed fell rush. So I think the upsides to Havoc are very high. I think these crit nerfs are going to help it out. Havoc Demon Hunter plays really well into a consistent damage playstyle. So As long as the healer nerfs weren't too brutal, I think the survivability or the crit nerfs are only going to add to Havoc Demon Hunter's very solid amount of survivability. The fact that you can kite out in between your blur because blur is on such a short cooldown, it puts you in a good spot. It does definitely have some weaknesses, but I think in PvP and in PvE, Havoc is looking really good. I'm actually going to be maining Havoc Demon Hunter in PvE this season, and I'll probably be doing the same in PvP, oddly enough. I haven't mained it since BFA, but I got the itch, right? I got the itch. It's the first class I ever hit Gladiator on, so, I like it. I like it. Definitely still going to be playing Warrior, but I'm in the mood for some DH. Let's go with Feral. I think Feral's a solid lock in A tier also, to be honest with you. Feral is great in PvP, great in PvE. Yeah, I mean, I don't have too many bad things to say. I think in PvP, they will do very well into this consistent, this less crit meta. The crit nerfs will hurt your Ferocious Bite, obviously. But you're proccing Ferocious Bites, so you will have plenty of those. And your bleeds are just going to be strong, right? You're going to be a strong bleed machine the same way you are now, but you're going to have more gear and stats to kind of load up on that damage. I think it's going to be tough. I think this season is a lot of rot. I think you're going to see DH Boomy come back. I think you're going to see Feral Lock come back. Feral DK could be very strong in this meta, especially since DK won't just fall over to physical damage. I didn't even talk about the CC changes, right? A lot of CC has been nerfed as well, but Cyclone was not. Cyclone is now the best CC in the game on Feral. When you land a Cyclone, you're going to be able to hit a Feral Frenzy every time with that new PvP talent. So Feral's looking good. Feral's got a lot of options, and it'll pair well with BM Hunter and Survival Hunter in jungle and Marksman, really. I think Marksman's probably the redheaded stepchild. Not that I want to jump too much into range builds, but I think this takes us into Survival, which I believe is, again, solidly A tier. I don't see Survival being in a bad place this season. The crit nerfs will help it out from a survivability standpoint. It does a ton of damage. It's got great CC, some of the best CC in the game. Very difficult to maintain uptime on a good survival hunter who doesn't just play it in melee and really comes in when targets are CC'd, and it can kind of knock out its burst rotation. I think survival's in a great spot. Plus the tier set bonus, which I think they have actually already nerfed on the PTR, if I recall correctly, is going to make it feel more like Shadowlands Season 4. You're going to be dropping bombs like crazy. I think survival could be A tier in both PvP and PvE. I think it's in a good spot. I think if you want to play Melee Hunter, this would be a good season to do it. If you missed Shadowlands Season 4, I'm sorry for you, because it was super, super fun, Season 3 and 4. But I think you'll get a little bit of like a diet version of Shadowlands Season 4. So enjoy it. Survival, you're in a good spot. Windwalker Monk, I want to move to S tier so bad because I really think it's going to do crazy things this season. I think the tier set bonus is awesome for Windwalker. I know it's nerfed by 50% in PvP, but Windwalker being a leather class, you're enabled to use your tier set, right? Because you're going to have over 1200 versatility on that tier set. It's going to be awesome in Mythic Plus. That tier set is just going to really pump in PvE because it's not going to be nerfed by 50%. If you're Havoc, you probably only take the 2-piece, but Windwalker is going to enjoy the 4-piece in both PvE and PvP, in my opinion, my humble opinion. I got to drop it here. I don't really see a downside to Windwalker Monk this season. The crit nerfs are going to benefit this class incredibly. You would think that, but how are crit nerfs going to benefit Windwalker Monk, right? They're trying to blow people up in a stun every minute. Not really anymore. It's more of a brawler play style. The crit nerfs are going to keep you in the fight longer. the fact that you can stack stamina gems to get massive karmas when people are going into you as well, along with your Battle Master trinket and Fort Brew if you really want to go insane. I try not to stack Karma and Fort Brew because I like spacing out the 4 walls Windwalker has, but I definitely stack Karma with my Battle Master, regularly getting over 300k Karmas. Now that you're getting more health on your gear, your Karmas will be hitting for even more than 300,000 once you are fully geared. So yeah, I think Windwalker's in a great place. Pro tip: macro, Karma, and Battle Master string it together. I think they go together like peas and carrots. Retribution Paladin. Gotta go S tier. You actually gotta go S tier. Melees are looking incredible up to this point. The first 7 melees, all S, all A, PvE, and PvP. Red is gonna absolutely slap in PvE. The tier set bonus is just extra damage everywhere, right? It's a lot of judgment. So red is judging quite a bit. If they want to wear it in PvP, you might be losing some versatility there, but it'll be solid bonus damage if you want to go for like a more offensive Retribution Paladin build. Yeah, it's got the best utility in the game. It is human again in the manner that, you know, you can actually make Retribution Paladin a kill target now. The only problem with the Retribution Paladin is that I think there are going to be too many people playing the specialization. So if you're trying to play it in PvE and PvP, it might be difficult to find partners to play with. But Ret goes great with Windwalker. Ret goes great with Havoc Demon Hunter. Ret goes great with Frost DK, Unholy DK, Feral Druid, Survival Hunter, you know, Outlaw Rogue, Enhancement Shaman can even work with Retribution. And you know Ret Warrior, Arms or Fury are awesome. So Ret is, and then let's not, you know, even talk about all the casters that Ret goes with, right? Ret goes with just about anything. I played Ret Fire Mage to like 2200, just memeing, not this season, but back in Shadowlands. So I would imagine this season it would have been even easier because Ret is that good. You probably did it with a Frost Mage. But yeah, Ret looking great in Mythic Plus, looking very good in Raid, looking very good in PvP. Can't go wrong. That's an S tier specialization. And this brings us to the Assassination Rogue, which I really think is just a dumpster fire. I think the rogue specializations in general are not in a great place right now. I think Assassination is probably, yeah, I think it's a C tier. It's definitely not D tier. In PvP, it is absolutely dumpstered by everything up here. It's just not in a great spot, especially with the massive nerfs to Rogue coming this season. You know, you're blind. You can no longer blind into sap. And there's just nerfs all around the board, right? I think Kidney Shot caught a little nerf. You're going to have more orcs coming out of the woodwork this season that are going to be, again, direct nerfs to Rogue, even with the orc racial getting nerfed by 50%. Still going to be very strong, so you'll definitely see some orcs playing the game. I like to think Dark Iron Dwarf is still the best racial in the game, but you know, you'll see some people flop to orc because they have to go with whatever they think is meta this season. But yeah, Assassination Rogue, trash in Mythic Plus, pretty good in Raid, and not very good in PvP right now, especially next season. I think it's going to be a very difficult time to be an Assassination Rogue. Outlaw Rogue, I gotta give it a D tier, honestly. In PvE, I just don't think it's great. I know it got some buffs. It's probably swapping. I think Assassination Rogue is D tier. Outlaw Rogue is probably C tier. You know, they're buffing some damage with Outlaw Rogue, but I've read some tweets from some Outlaw one tricks in PvE, and they're not even like fully satisfied with the buffs. In PvP, it's kind of a train wreck. You don't really have enough damage to kill anyone on your own. You're just kind of a CC bot that can hopefully live longer. Now, they did buff your stamina back to 15% from that big PvP talent, so, you know, you could live a little longer. But honestly, on any of these classes up here, I never have a problem going the Outlaw Rogue or the Rogue in general in a game and securing the kill right now. They just don't feel like they're in a good spot. and they're getting nerfed even harder coming into next tier. This takes us to Subtlety Rogue, which Subtlety Rogue is going to be in a really bad spot in PvP next season. But I think here's Subtlety Rogue, right? Dumpster fire PvP because of these CC changes, but amazing spec PvE Mythic Plus, right? So super good in Mythic Plus, really good in Raid. I think it's going to have a very solid showing next season from a PvE standpoint, but I don't think it's there in PvP at all. And I think all of the rogue specs are weighted down because of how poor they will perform in PvP until they get something. You almost need to rework rogues entirely. Maybe go back to the drawing board, or give them some talents that they can talent into to like increase CC duration to get their CC duration. Maybe not exactly what it was for blind saps, but just like give them something. Like they're in a bad spot. I know it doesn't feel good to die in a stun on any class by some like forever running away rogue, but I don't think they're in a very good spot right now, and I think they could look at. I think there needs to be some type of tuning done to rogues in a PvP standpoint. I don't know what it is. Like, do you just turn them all into brawlers, like the S and A tier classes? Although Survival Hunter does have that CC like a rogue, I think Thug Cleave, sub outlaw, sub rogue Survival Hunter will still be pretty solid next season. But like, I can't. Maybe like RPS Assassination Rogue could still work in for sure. Outlaw, you just got to be like, playing charity games with your buddy on a Ret Paladin, right? So like Outlaw Ret, you could play some Scooby-Doo. Maybe it can live long enough for that. Yeah. Enhancement Shaman, I think is firmly A tier. It will do a ton of damage in PvE and PvP, mind you, but it's also getting its own ice block, right? So Enhancement Shaman right now, you have pretty good survivability just by kiting in games, right? You have to play very smart. But next patch, you're going to have your wall on a 1.5-minute cooldown. And now you'll also have an ice block for the second go, or you use the ice block on the first go, your wall on the second go. You're going to go underground. You're going to be immune to any damage, immune to CC, and you'll be able to get healed. So yeah, I think Enhancement Shaman is looking really good in PvP. And then in PvE, this spec is a ton of fun. If anything, Shaman does suffer from some button bloat. So if you aren't really feeling the button bloat of the Enhancement Shaman, I could see, arguing it on the B tier, right? But I mean, performance-wise, it's an A tier specialization. Super, super good in PvP and PvE. And honestly, these classes could also be ranked as the fun factor too, right? I think Outlaw or Sub is the most fun rogue specialization, followed by Outlaw, followed by the snooze fest that is Assassination right now. All of these are fun to play up here. These are definitely A tier fun specializations. Then we get Arms Warrior. And I don't think Arms Warrior is S tier next season. I think it's firmly in the A tier. It's probably the top of the A tier. Putting Windwalker in S tier and Arms in A tier, people might be looking at that thinking like, hey, what are you doing there? But these crit nerfs, you know what? Actually, because if you're Play My Bleed build, you go full haste, you're skull splitting, the crit nerfs really aren't even doing anything to you on a warrior. You have the best utility in the game. Ignore Pain just got buffed. Yeah, if you want to do it in order, this is probably the S tier order. This is your A tier order. And then here's your B tier, bringing Fury Warrior into the B tier with the Subtlety Rogue. I don't even think that's right. I think Arms is so good, but Fury is easily A tier. When your 3 tiers are dedicated by like, which rogue spec are you, like, which rogue spec would I match this guy with? None of them. All of these specializations are better than rogues this patch, right? Sub, fine, B tier because it's going to have a great performance in Mythic Plus. Outlaw's kind of lost. It's got damage buffs, decent in Mythic Plus, kind of shitty single target. PvP, it's completely lost. Again, maybe decent with like Rep Paladin. And then Assassination Rogue is just full trash outside of maybe like matching up with Shadow Priest. You have pretty good damage. At least you're not like a crit dependent specialization. So you've got that going for you. But you're the most boring of the 3 rogue specs. And you're only played by like, you know, one weird Adderall streamer and myself in Classic. So yeah, rogues, not in a great spot. Every melee better than rogues. This is my tier list. If you want to play a class in 10.1, I firmly recommend one of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, one of these 10 classes, because they're all a ton of fun. They're all looking great in PvE, PvP, and Mythic Plus, and they're not rogues. So I didn't plan out this tier list. Again, I don't really plan out any of my videos. They just kind of come to me, but I play every melee in the game. I enjoy playing melees, and I play them all to pretty high levels, pretty decent levels, right? Usually get 2100 to elite on any melee that I want to, you know, in any season that I decide to play it. So yeah, that's it, boys. That's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good day, have a good week, have a good month, and have a good year. Subscribe to the channel, comment to the video. Let me know which rogue spec you're not going to play this season. Tomato sauce and out. 10 melees in, 3 melees, not so much. Have a good one, guys.